Through the ups and downs, we stand tall in this journey of growth. Day by day, through the ups and downs, we stand tall.
Oh, good morning.
Good morning, Julia. Hey.
Are we on record? Oh, yes, we are. Cool.
Yeah, I've hit record.
Good morning. What are we talking about?
Dopamine today, I believe, Julia.
Dopamine. Yes.
What is dopamine, and why are we talking about it?
It's a good question. What is dopamine, and why are we talking about it? Well, I can tell you why we're talking about it. Because we both listened to Anna Lembke's, as we've now learned how to pronounce, podcast, which is actually, I'm finding this quite funny that we're now talking about this, because at the beginning of Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett spent a good while trying to encourage everyone to listen to this podcast, saying it's life-changing, and he's only said this twice in the entirety of his podcasting career, which is 4 years, and everyone must listen to it. And now, not only have we listened to it, but we are now creating our own podcast about it. So obviously it was good. It is good. And you've also read her book,
Yes.
which I think I will now go on to read. But I thought it would be quite a nice idea to talk about dopamine and how we've kind of related it back to ourselves and our lives based on the things we've learned. I mean, I think we've both probably talked about. I think everyone's talking about dopamine, aren't they? And kind of there's a lot of reels and things that get posted all over the internet about dopamine and dopamine seeking and obviously
and
a lot
fasting,
of the scrolling.
Dopamine fasting,
and the scrolling is a dopamine thing, and but there were a few things in that podcast that were news to me and I found quite interesting. What about you, or even in the book, because I haven't read the book? So
I think mainly around sort of like realizing how much a part it plays in addiction and things like that. So, and your I suppose it's the neurotransmitters, isn't it? And how you don't realize that what you're doing is repetitive, and that that's what you're seeking, really. And it's that feel good factor of when you're scrolling and trying to find that's I suppose that reel, or that something that's going to hit the spot that you believe. It's the anticipation as well, I suppose, is one of the things.
And I suppose maybe we should just explain a little bit that dopamine is our reward. Is like it's how the brain learns about reward. Can we call it the reward chemical? So when it's the thing that motivates us to go and get more, it's a survival one of our many survival mechanisms, and it's the thing that when we were cave people, if you like, motivated us to get up and go out foraging and build ourselves a fire and build ourselves a shelter. So naturally it's what the brain releases when we've done something rewarding, or what would be naturally rewarding to our survival. And the purpose of it is that it then encourages us. It's pleasurable, right? So
it's not just the bad stuff, it's obviously the good stuff as well. So you exercising after a run, or you do a lot of running, don't you? And it's that's the sort of the dopamine high that you get after running, so, or exercise in general, if you feel that way inclined.
So there was a few things it got me thinking about. Was there anything it got you thinking about?
It was more, I suppose, the food side of things as well, that I didn't really realise about, that you were sort of, if you were eating sugar, you're chasing it from that side. And I think I haven't actually tried. I like the sort of the fact of it being this fasting side, because I do like a fast. So I haven't tried a dopamine fast though. Have you? Have you tried to do anything like that, just to see if you've?
This is
on purpose.
Yes and no. So we've talked before about me having my phone-free day.
Yes,
each week, and I wasn't doing it to dopamine fast. I think we talked about I was doing it to kind of just create some boundaries for myself. But and then I don't know if I've said this to you or if I said it on the podcast or off the podcast or when I've said it, but I distinctly remember saying that I feel like I've overcome the need now to switch it off. And so even though it would still, well, what happened was I kind of lost a day. It got difficult to find a day to turn it off, and even the day that I could turn it off, I was sat in front of the computer screen, so it didn't really benefit. And I've been trying to work out another day, but also feeling like I didn't need it in the same way I did when I first started it. But now I'm looking at it from a totally different point of view, because I think actually it would be worth me starting to have, like, really committing to that phone-free day again, because that was a dopamine fast. I know she talks about 30 days is the amount of time until we really start to feel good again. But she does also talk about having a short break from the thing that you are possibly addicted to just check whether you are or you're not. But I'm guessing...
Yeah, because you're constantly chasing it otherwise, aren't you? That in that sense, but not in their healthy way.
Yeah, and so... and I guess the purpose of the dopamine fast, I don't know that I've really heard much about dopamine fasting in the podcast. Maybe there's more about that in her book. I think there possibly is. I think you might have mentioned that. But I'm assuming the purpose of the dopamine fast is like a fast from food, to give your body a reset.
Yeah. And I think it's like onto the sort of the dopamine addiction and the pain pleasure balance as well. So, so it just every... So I think from what she says in here is her concept of the pain pleasure balance is every high comes with a low, which leads to addiction cycles. So, I think that's sort of one sort of sign that you could possibly be addicted to something. Because what made you decide that you wanted to do your dopamine fast, even though you didn't realise what that was at the time, with your phone stuff? Was it because on here she's like, inability to stop, so the signs of a dopamine addiction from her point of view was the inability to stop, irritability, and needing more of something for the same effect?
Yeah, it actually wasn't that at all. It was more boundaries around messaging.
Okay.
Was the reason that I did it. But I don't feel like I need that now. It was more a not feeling a need to reply to things instantly. So if I put a boundary in place by switching my phone off, and I made that announcement, it was on my WhatsApp that my phone was switched off on that particular day, so I felt comfortable that other people wouldn't feel concerned or think I was ignoring them. And that enabled me to put myself into a position where I didn't feel a constant need to respond to people immediately. And now I don't feel, I was feeling that other people would be worrying about me, or worried that I'm ignoring them, or feeling that I was angry, whatever it was. I was feeling a need to respond to people immediately, and I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's necessary. And so by switching it off for the day, I obviously was not responding to people for potentially a 24-hour period, and now I don't feel like I need to respond to people immediately.
Yeah, so that's maybe like what she's saying then about resetting. So that's the resetting of the dopamine levels. Then maybe yours wasn't the dopamine though,
no,
because
it wasn't.
It was the complete opposite, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the dopamine. But now there is absolutely a dopamine thing that goes on with just scrolling. I don't have Instagram, and I don't have Facebook on my phone, and I don't have other social medias anyway.
I get really distracted by the messages and the things that ping up on social media. Without a doubt, I do find that really distracting. So that's probably something, because I was talking to another friend about this actually, because she's taken all of her stuff off her phone so that she can only use it on her laptop like you do.
Yeah.
So
but the problem is I have Nextdoor app. Do you know that app?
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah, I had it, but I can't remember my login. I think it keeps sending me emails, and I can't remember my login.
Exactly. It's not even an interesting. It's not even something that you would really want to be scrolling. But I now find myself at times of nothing else, or not even nothing else to do. But I find it calming. I now will pick up my phone and scroll Nextdoor, and it's not even particularly interested in the Nextdoor stuff. It's that there's like a switch off element to it, and I feel like I've
Yeah.
certainly I don't think I used to be quite so like this, but I feel like the other day, and I don't know if this is a dopamine thing, potentially it is, but the other day I was had like an hour to do quite a lot of stuff, and I knew I could get it done, but I could only get it done if I focused intensely, and I really did, and that shouldn't. It was something I do every week. It was part of my part of my work that I do every week, and it's not difficult stuff, and I can always do it without problem. But doing it intensely in this hour, when I finished, I was exhausted, and I couldn't work out why I was so exhausted, like mentally exhausted. And I realised that I hadn't taken any kind of breaks out. But when I take a break out, I don't mean like going and walking outside for 5 minutes. I mean like logging onto Facebook and scrolling. And I think that I actually use now, I've really realised that I use scrolling almost as a switch off, calm down type thing. And it's not. I mean, yeah, next door
To
app is
be
probably a
fair,
bit better,
I don't scroll much during the day as such. It's more in the evening, I suppose. Yeah, if I'm sitting there watching something, if I put something on to after a particularly busy day, to wind down, say I mean, I watch YouTube a lot of the time, to be fair, and but then I'll sit there on my phone scrolling at the same time.
It's like we're using it, and I hear people saying this about children with neurodiversities, like some autism, some ADHD. I actually hear people saying they need it to regulate themselves, and I think that cannot be true. That absolutely cannot be the case.
I wouldn't say if I didn't have it personally, then I would not. I'd probably be okay.
But why is it that why does it calm us down, and why am I not taking 2 minutes out and meditating? Why am I not taking 2 minutes to go and breathe outside?
I haven't got time to. Yeah. Well, even to the point. So I think in her book, she was saying, instead of, like I will try and do a million things at once. So say I'm walking my dog, I will then put a podcast on because I think I've got that time. That's wasted time to me. Whereas I should I could be just spending the time bonding with my dog on the walk and giving him attention instead of listening to my podcast or listening to a book or trying to double down on everything that I'm doing.
Or just being present.
Yeah, exactly. Like even driving down the road, I'll put a podcast on because I think, it's time now that I can listen to something whilst I'm doing something else.
Yeah. So that you were asking me if I ever dopamine fast, and I think that is a dopamine fast. What there was a few things that I did take from this podcast. I've written them down.
Go on.
The first one was well, I've just written them while we're talking because it's come to me. But the first one was shopping, because people get addicted to shopping, don't they? And there's definitely a dopamine's generated with shopping, and I have learned somewhere else that it's the dopamine comes in the choosing, not in the receiving. So when someone is rummaging through the less rummaging probably in a nice shop, but nicely looking through the clothes to pick what they want, that's when they're getting the dopamine. When they're scrolling and clicking add to basket on the web page, that's when they're getting the dopamine. When they actually have bought this thing and taken it home and unpack it, there isn't dopamine. And it's the same with the online shopping. Apparently when they receive it, there isn't the dopamine. That's kind of irrelevant. I was thinking when she was saying about how dopamine is naturally comes for when we do things that are for our survival. It did make sense to me why shopping may really give that dopamine, because really, we need warmth and clothing for our survival. And so it is kind of related, but it's that back in the day, we could have killed an animal and taken its
Is this
skin
our
for our
hunting?
clothes. Yeah, but we would have got like one item of clothing a week or something.
Yeah.
And now people go and buy bags of clothing, sometimes more than once a week, but they buy enough for a year in a day.
Yeah.
And so it's doing too much. But it did make me think, that's why shopping is that's why shopping, because it's giving that same reward for the same thing, just in a different kind of context.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you get dopamine for shopping? Do you like shopping?
I don't like in-person shopping. I can't stand it. So for me, that would definitely not give me a dopamine hit at all. But possibly the online shopping. But yeah.
Have you ever liked in-person shopping?
No, not really. No, I've never liked going to if it was empty, then yeah. But I'm not really I like to just know what I'm getting and go in and get it and get out. I don't get pleasure from shopping or anything. Like some people, let's go to Lakeside or let's go to Blue Water. I could not think of absolutely anything worse unless there was food involved. So there you go. There's probably where I get my.
Yeah, that's interesting
If you give
isn't
me
it?
if you give me a food in the middle, I'll be happy.
So you get your dopamine from substances,
Definitely.
whereas I don't. Like
yeah.
Alcohol, actually food, I absolutely do probably. But
I definitely think food is where a big player for me. Yeah.
But I certainly would get like quite a lot of dopamine, I think, from shopping. I don't do it because of my values, but I don't deny that I get dopamine.
So do you online shop then, or do you not? What do you? You don't.
Well, I just try not to shop. If I need something, I would probably. Well, yeah, it depends. That's another subject. But I like to go to the charity shops. I like to look on Vinted for, do my bit for the world. But I wouldn't go, and I would definitely go to the shops if I need. If I was going to something specific and I needed something to wear, then yeah, absolutely. But I try not to just go to browse as something to do. I find that a little bit dysfunctional as well, really. Like, let's just go to the shops for something to do.
Yeah.
I just don't think it's healthy, and I'd rather not do that with the children, because I think it's almost like giving them drugs at a young age, isn't it? Why start doing this dopamine thing with them when because I see it in them. Why develop that addiction when they're little? So I don't try to do that. But the other thing I learned was that dopamine from exercise stays in your body for hours.
So is it better to get dopamine? Like, is that not the case with when you go shopping? Then it doesn't stay in you for hours.
Yeah.
Is it more exercise then?
I'm still trying to get my head around this the balancing. So we release dopamine, and then our body tries to get back to homeostasis by balancing it. So stopping the dopamine.
Yeah.
Is that what you're understanding as well?
Well, because when she's saying as well about taking intentional breaks from overstimulating activities, say, but what's an overstimulating activity? That would be different for each person, right?
Yeah.
So would shopping be considered an overstimulating? It would be overstimulating for me, but in a bad way.
No,
if I was made to go shopping,
do you think when she says, is this something is this out from the book? Because
I think, I think so. I think this is I think this is more out of the book than the podcast. So yeah. So the small discomforts to reset dopamine levels, like cold showers or fasting, or like you say, digital detoxes. But that's more, the reset side of things.
Yeah.
So I suppose the overindulgence side. So slower pleasures, connecting with others. Okay, so how cultivating slower pleasures. So that would be what you're talking about, the exercise, nature walks. I actually went for a walk and I was trying to work this out, and I need to do some research on this actually. We were in a pine forest, and I absolutely love pine forests.
Oh,
There's
me
something
too.
about them.
Yeah.
And yeah, I went up and hugged a tree yesterday, not gonna lie. And and it
Tree hugger.
was, yeah.
But this
No,
is
but it's
good.
the
This makes
pine
us feel, yeah.
forests. Yeah, it really calms me down and like really relaxes me. And there's some forests that I just don't like. You know, like you go into a forest and you're like, oh, like Epping Forest. I don't like Epping Forest. It's got a horrible feel to it.
It's a bit eerie,
And I,
but there has been a few
yeah,
incidents
it's
there.
not a nice forest. And then yesterday we were at this. We were in I can't think what the place is called. It's in Suffolk, but it was near an airbase that's got the most UFO sightings in the country apparently. And there was a UFO walk we went on,
Oh, was it
but we
good?
didn't see any because it was daylight.
Do the UFOs not come in daylight?
Apparently, you won't be able to see them. So you know, no, I have
Are
no
all
idea.
UFOs the
But
same?
well, I wanted to see the flying saucer shaped
The
UFO
one out
because
of the
apparently they
fairy
had one
tales.
in there. Yeah, they had it in there, but we had to get back to the van, so because of the parking, and yeah, so we didn't get to see, we didn't do the full UFO trail, but yeah, apparently there's UFOs there. But anyway, go back to the pine forest.
Going back to
It was just a
oh,
beautiful pine forest, and there was deer there as well. It's always good when there's deer there. But
so
I think that's a nice place to get your, you know.
I was going to
Yeah,
ask how this relates to dopamine in our conversation. Or are you done with it?
it was the walking in the nature walks that gives you
Yeah.
the long lasting dopamine that isn't
Why is that then? Do you think that's because your body thinks you're going out hunting?
trees are alive.
You're going to find your food. You're going to
Foraging.
find your forage. Yeah. So
I don't know because I didn't do any research. I didn't do the research on it.
So I've got a little
But
bit
I do
about
want to.
overstimulation. So overstimulation is she, I think, is referring to when we have too much dopamine and the body
Yeah.
tries to so that's get back to the homeostasis. And
Yeah.
I always I like Robert Sapolsky. He's written a couple of books, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and also
Yes.
Behave. They're both brilliant books. And he prefers the term allostasis because homeostasis is like level, whereas I believe allostasis is kind of able to fluctuate. And so anyway, he uses the term allostasis, but the overstimulation is when there's more dopamine than the body really wants, and it's trying to bring it back down. So, and that's what happens with addiction, where the body is expecting too much dopamine, so it's just bringing it down almost before it's
To make you go and get.
well, just to bring your body back into balance. But that's what causes people then need more to get the same feeling of pleasure. And so that's where she was going with the exercise. If you do exercise, the dopamine stays in your body for hours. So that's why exercise is really beneficial, because we do, like, the dopamine is a good reward, but that's another thing that was interesting. I thought she was saying that the dopamine is supposed to come as the reward, and it's supposed to be just a little bit. So like, you go out hunting all day and you get the catch, and then you get a little bit of dopamine, but you've done an entire day of hunting. And so the exercise, it's like you've done the hard work, and then your reward is the dopamine. Rather than how we use it, we're using like these other things like shopping and drug use and alcohol use and gambling and sex and these things to get our a lot of dopamine.
Can you ever have too much?
Well, apparently so, yeah.
What happens?
The body down regulates it, and then we start to try and get more.
hence the addiction side of things.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do you recognise when you're feeling a dopamine
I
high?
don't know that I do. I don't know that I think about it in that way. I don't know that I sit there and think, oh, a bit of dopamine there. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I can really feel it. Like
Can
an
you?
adrenaline rush, yeah.
How do you tell the difference between adrenaline and dopamine then? I honestly hadn't really thought about it like that.
Because I think the situations in which I feel it, I wouldn't be getting an adrenaline rush.
Hmm. So what do you mean after a run, say?
No, that's a good point actually, because I don't really feel it. I don't feel anything. I don't feel it
Because
at
that's
all
what I was going
after
to
a
say.
run.
Like if you know, like they say dopamine after exercise, I'm like, yeah, right. You feel good after. I don't recognise that necessarily as being like, oh, there's a dopamine rush. Do you know what I mean? I don't think about it like that. I
No,
never have done. So I don't
I'm
know that maybe I should be thinking more, recognising it more, so that you
I'm
can.
talking more like with the shopping, for example.
Yeah. Sorry,
Am I boring you?
it was. Just,
I know Dr. Anna Lembke's podcast was really, really interesting. This one, not so much, perhaps.
that wasn't it? But yeah. So anyway, how do you recognise it then as dopamine?
Well, I think actually you've made a really good point, because I don't notice it when I go
I
out
wouldn't.
running. The healthy type I don't recognise.
What, you only recognise the bad stuff?
Yeah. Why is that? What's that about?
Oh, I don't know.
Why don't you know?
I'm sorry. I could Google it.
I think this
Why
is
don't you
something we need to
recognise
work
the?
on. I need
Yeah,
to know. Okay,
yeah.
so what about you? I've told you about me.
What about me?
Well, what's your thoughts?
What on the? So I suppose for I don't shop for my dopamine highs. So and I don't really recognise when I'm feeling dopamine, perhaps. So I think it's mainly probably the scrolling for me then.
Well, I thought what was interesting was we talked about your addictions before,
Yeah,
and actually you would say that you use those substances to suppress your feelings. You were
yeah,
using them to numb yourself, actually,
yeah.
not to get the high. So
Mm.
I don't know. I'm
But you
sure that
possibly you'd get the high at the same time though, right? I did find afterwards I felt like, oh, boring. Everything's boring. So maybe
So I've worked with
I did go into sugar after as well, by the way. So I had a massive thing with sugar after I'd stopped drinking and smoking.
yeah. I've worked with people who alcoholics who drink alcohol to kind of get to the point of blackout. They don't actually necessarily do it out and about. It's more like they'll drink at home literally to the point of blacking out in order to black out.
Oh yeah, no, I didn't do that.
But you still viewed it as a way to numb yourself rather because
It quietened the noise.
did it
I
feel
think
good?
so.
So what about where does the dopamine come into that then?
Maybe it just did, but you didn't. I didn't realise
Did you feel
that
good?
that's what it was. Yeah, I drank alcohol to get the drunk feeling. I didn't drink it because I like to take. Because now I smell alcohol and I'm like, oh, it smells of chemicals. Like it doesn't. I don't sit there thinking, oh yeah, really. And I don't remember ever really liking the taste of it.
But how does your
So perhaps that was the dopamine side
how
of
does
things
your
then.
suppression of feelings come into
Because if I was having a bad day, you just forget. It didn't even occur to you, and then all of the things that you'd think about would come into your mind now that you have to deal with. It would just go out of your mind.
that? That's two separate things, isn't it?
Mm. But I didn't think about the dopamine side of things when I was drinking, or when I stopped drinking. It wasn't something that any therapist has ever mentioned to me either.
No, it is relevant, but I don't know that it's so noticeable as with the other addictive behaviours that we don't necessarily consider addictive behaviours.
You think I know that I spoke to somebody else about this. It wasn't you, and about cocaine, because cocaine is definitely known as a massive. You use up so much of your dopamine supply when you use cocaine, and it depletes you. So that's why you get the. And I can see with the drug side of things 100%, because say you take drugs at the weekend for whatever reason, you get high, and then on, like, say Monday or Tuesday, you have this massive crash where you are completely, like the world's going to end, because you've just gone through the other side of, and that would be the dopamine side of things, isn't it?
Yeah, massively.
So I noticed that, I suppose, with drugs, but not with alcohol.
So I had another interesting thought or question. So drugs, they alter like our perception and our way of thinking, don't they? Like mind altering substances, I guess they call them. So there's a difference, isn't there, between getting like dopamine from going shopping, or getting dopamine from gambling or sex, or a behaviour. Not actually take sex out of it, because there's obviously orgasms involved in sex, but like shopping, there's not really there's nothing mind altering about shopping.
No.
But people get addicted to it because they get a dopamine high from shopping. But then something like cocaine, the addiction, kind of, to some extent, there's the dopamine, but actually, is the addiction not to the change in mind? And the same from alcohol. And then the problem is that the dopamine makes us want to do it again, because we get dopamine from it as well. That tells us to do it again. Yeah.
But that's not the primary reason, perhaps, that you do it in the first place. Definitely not.
No, but the shopping is then. The shopping is it's the dopamine. So there's something kind of going wrong. So we get dopamine from a lot of behaviours, clearly. That's a lot of different things. But there's two different reasons why we do, like the shopping. Your brain you get the dopamine, and then the brain says, go and do this again, because it's rewarding for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I'm
so
interested.
It drives your behaviour then. So looking at
well, there's certain behaviours that must be purely dopamine driven, like shopping, like gambling, I would say. Yeah. Maybe the gambling is more, it's just searching for the reward. But
the overindulgence leads to the lows, which then traps you in the addiction cycles.
Yeah, but I think there's more to it with mind altering substances, isn't there? It's not just dopamine. It's
quietening noise or accessing parts of your brain that you wouldn't normally as well.
And so there's
different types of drugs.
I don't feel like this was kind of clarified on the podcast, and maybe it is in her book, but I feel like there's one kind of there's one like bracket for behaviours that are absolutely addictive purely because of the dopamine, like work as well. People who get addicted to work, that's potentially purely dopamine driven, and I think she clarifies in the podcast as well that there's a lot of people saying that they're addicted to dopamine, but it's not that. It's just that for some reason the brain is excreting or creating dopamine when someone does those behaviours, and that motivates us to do it more and more and more. And then there's the other thing. I suppose
it's the understanding, isn't it? If you understand that's what your brain is doing, then maybe you would then think twice about doing the thing.
Well,
If
exactly,
you
like
didn't
me and
realise
shopping.
that's what it was, yeah. And if you didn't realise what it was, then so maybe the point of it is to understand what you're doing, your driving behaviours behind each action that you're doing that makes you feel good in your
Yeah.
mind, whatever that may be, and then and then perhaps abstaining from some things so that you don't use it all up, or you don't portray addictive behaviours maybe that you might not even think of as being addictive.
What
Can you
about?
do too much exercise?
Well, I think exercise. Yes, she did say that exercise can become, that because she talks about like all of the apps and things we have nowadays. I have it. I have a thing that I wear, a heart rate monitor, and it gives me points, and it's terrible because
Points make prizes.
yeah, but except there's no prize other than a status, and so I've been doing this now for, God, I can't even tell you, like years.
Yeah.
Like probably about 5 or 6 years. So and every month you reach your target, you go up a rung. Except it then gets to the point where you have to do it for, like, I think I've got to do like 36 months or something to go up my next rung. But if you don't meet the target in 1 month, you go right back to the beginning. So I could be like 35 months into a 36-month thing. And if I don't meet it for 1 month, I go right back to the beginning of the 36 months. So I'm already a little bit concerned about in May we're going on holiday for 2 weeks. What's actually going to happen? Like, and so
Do you want me to wear it for you? So you
yeah,
don't.
you have to exercise every day. So that these things cause problems for us because they could make me exercise 3 times a day in the 2 weeks
Make you.
of that month that I'm here. Make me, yeah. Um,
The robots made you do
obviously I won't, but she does talk about that. But the thing with the alcohol and those addictions are not that you're getting a reward in my opinion, it's not that you're getting a dopamine reward after doing it, so it makes you do it more. It's the problem with that is the needing more, right? So she says that when you have too much dopamine and your body tries to keep it down, it kind of does the opposite, and so then you feel really low, like you just talked about, like that real big crash, and know that the only way to feel better is to have so they're two really big differences in pattern, aren't they? But kind of creating the same behavior, doing something over and over again and not being able to stop it. Oh, it's very interesting.
It's very interesting.
It does break things down, and I think having that deeper, I mean, I think both you and I had a fairly good understanding anyway, but having that even deeper understanding makes it so much easier to help people in those situations.
Yeah, understanding where they may be getting their dopamine from.
Well, and what exactly is going on, and because surely stopping alcohol is very different to stopping shopping.
Yeah. But then you can completely stop alcohol, like, and can you completely stop shopping? Because
It's
you
like
need stuff.
yeah, I always remember that in my hypnotherapy training, how it can be so challenging, or there's challenges to overcome when helping someone stop alcohol, because you can't say to someone don't drink, and like food, you can't say to someone don't eat. So yeah, it's navigating
they're suggesting
that still drinking as in the act of drinking water or something else, but not drinking alcohol, and still eating food, but making healthy choices rather than not healthy choices.
Whatever those healthy choices may be.
Thoughts? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that I need to go and look at where I get my dopamine from. Definitely.
Yeah. Do you think you don't
do you
know?
think you need to go? Do you think? Yeah, I think there may be some more self exploration that needs to be done on that.
I know exactly where mine comes from. Yeah. definitely.
Yeah, I think I need to do some more exploration, and then it sort of helps you be a bit more understanding, then, doesn't it? I suppose on where, particularly looking into it in a more deeper level as to where other people might, when you see, I don't know, there's different pleasures that people may get that you think, what, how are you even getting pleasure from that? But then understanding that it could be the dopamine they're getting, and that's why.
Yeah, I find it interesting. I find it quite surprising. You don't know. I thought everyone could feel it.
No, I wouldn't say so. But then you don't feel it after you're running.
That's healthy.
Not in the same way.
I'm more
so
talking
you only feel
about
the unhealthy.
Yeah.
Mm.
I can feel it driving behaviours
You're more
that I don't
self-aware
necessarily.
of your dopamine than I am.
No, do you know? I think it's that I can feel it driving behaviours that I wouldn't necessarily engage in regularly and don't necessarily want to do, and so it's probably when it's things that are out of a normal pattern.
So I suppose if it was when you'd say alcohol, maybe now perhaps it would be sugar and food instead of for the bad stuff. I don't know, because I do scroll, but I'm not like obsessive over it. I'm not. I wouldn't say it was a problem. But is that because they don't recognise it as a problem? But then I suppose there's other people that I've spoken to more recently that have had problems with like phone addiction, definitely. But where we use it for so many different things, and the expectations are for, say, children, or because I remember when I mentioned to my daughter that I might start switching my phone off for a day. But what if something? And I'm like, well, what did we do before phones?
Yeah. Well, you don't have a home. You don't have a landline, I guess.
No.
Perhaps you need to get one installed.
I think I do actually, but I just don't have a phone connected to it. I wouldn't know what it was.
It's like an iron. I don't know what an iron is. Only a straightening one.
Yeah, you hang everything up. It doesn't need ironing. Definitely don't get my dopamine from ironing. Okay. I know that for a fact. But yeah, so I suppose it's the long-term happiness comes from the slower, meaningful pleasures and not the quick fixes, perhaps.
I think more natural contentment comes from hard work followed by small reward.
So for an example then, hard work being
intense exercise. No, it doesn't have to be intense. Exercise. Discomfort, basically.
Yeah, discomfort. And then what would your small reward be?
Not having to do it. No, the reward is the dopamine, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's just that it's not a short, sharp hit from exercise. Yeah. It's a long-term, slow release. So you get long-term comfort. Whereas some other habits, you get a short, quick release, but then it's gone. So you have to do it again and again and again. Maybe it's also about accepting, and she certainly says this in the podcast, accepting life is uncomfortable. But maybe it's also accepting that those short, sharp bursts of real highs are not what we could be striving to achieve. More, it's a stability and a kind of just a stable contentment without too many highs. A bit like your sugar, says me doing my Zoe study. Are we allowed to say that?
I don't know. I don't think you're benefiting from it, so I don't think we're going to get done by the trading standards.
But how flat should your sugar line be?
Yeah, that's a whole other subject, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about it next time.
Yeah,
we could talk about it next time because I'm quite interested in it. I've got lots to say. Okay. Well, are we rounding up?
I think we are. Yep. So slow and meaningful.
Well, you're
over
going to go and
quick
work
fixes.
out what gives you
And I
dopamine.
need to, yeah, because I don't do anything like, I don't drink. I didn't do loads of shopping. I don't. So for me,
actually, this is what
I do?
I was going to ask you this off air the other day, and I forgot. Do you feel like you've worked so hard on your life? Obviously, there's always things that can change, and I think it's almost like a lack of motivation when someone says, "No, I just want to carry on exactly as I am for the rest of my life." Like, it's nice to have like motivation for growth, but do you feel like you've worked so hard on undoing your unhealthy habits and instilling healthy habits that maybe actually you're living a really healthy life right now, and the things that were damaging, that were toxic, and there's more. It's not just things that are giving you a dopamine high, it's also the sugar highs, and it's the other things. But do you feel like actually right now, if you were to look at your life, is there anything that you would change? Maybe it's not that you don't know what gives you dopamine, it's just that you already learned what is toxic where that's concerned and you stopped it.
Yeah, I suppose so. And also I definitely do think the sugar thing is something that's I was going to not have sugar for the whole of January. I did that last year, but I definitely do think there's the sugar. I do possibly reward myself with things like a cake.
But is there anything else in your life is there anything in your life that you feel like you would
There's
quite
no
like to
other
change
bad
but can't?
habits.
No,
not really. No, I think I've done most of the work on everything.
and so maybe that's where you're at. It's it's more people who are recognizing that there's things in their life that they actually are really happy with.
But
right
I didn't
now.
look at it in the aspect of dopamine, I suppose, which is maybe would have made it easier for me to understand myself if I had have understood dopamine.
Makes you less to blame.
Yeah.
Or your human, the human conscious you.
It's nothing to do with me. It was dopamine.
Yeah, it's like the bacteria in my gut are what's craving all the food.
Yeah,
not me. I only eat for them.
It's those parasites, damn them.
I can't say no to them.
On that note.
Right. Let's go. Speak to you soon.
Back together we'll grow, 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 grow. Grow together we'll grow, grow, grow.